morning. It's 8 a.m. We'll call the Redevelopment Commission meeting to order. And we'll do a roll call. Ann McGinnis.
Here.
DJ Debbie.
Here.
Ken Austin.
Here.
Paul Buning. Here. Christy Ott.
Here.
Richard Works. Here. We have a quorum, and we can move forward. I will mention that the face masks are recommended but not required. And, so we'll get started with the minutes of our March 16th meeting. Need a motion for approval.
So moved.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any question? All in favor? Aye. Next is a professional services, Stone Municipal Group.
Yeah, I added a late addition yesterday for the Shell building.
Oh, okay.
That was, we were supposed to have a closing for the Shell building today at 10 o'clock, which was very exciting. There has been an issue with one of the appraisals in the bank, and Rob, I don't know if you want to explain this better than I can.
No, I don't know what the issue is.
Okay, that's about as much as I know, that there was an appraisal that came in that was the wrong kind of appraisal, and there was an issue with the bank, and so they need to delay the closing. And so I have a revised, well, first I have the deed, which I think, Rob, you sent me. And then I also have the, an amendment to the purchase agreement, so if you want to pass that down to Rob. That gives them an additional 2 weeks through May 3rd for the closing to occur. And they have committed to an additional $25,000 in earnest money, just to guarantee that it is non-refundable if they don't close. So a little disappointing, but I'm assured it's just a technicality, so just wanted to give everybody that update this morning.
Any questions? I'm sure we're going to move forward. And I know there's some disappointed people. Now the professional services.
Well, so let's, we're going back up. So, so I think do you want to entertain this proposed First Amendment to the real estate purchase agreement? So I'm just looking at it for the first time. It's relatively short, but if we don't, so they're technically going to miss their deadline to close, is what's happening. So I think you need to either agree to that or not. And if you do agree to it, then we could probably sign this agreement, but I'd rather have a few minutes to read it.
You have any problems with us approving it subject to your review after we're done?
No.
Then that's my motion.
We have a motion and a second. Need a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any question? All in favor? Aye.
And then if we can stay on that point for a minute. So what this agreement says is that they're going to close before May 3rd. Or the agreement will be extended to May 3rd. Or will you be in town between now and May 3rd? BJ will be in town also. BJ will be in town between now and May 3rd.
Unless I get kidnapped, yes.
Very good.
Well, that's highly likely.
Well, when you haven't been to Florida a year and a half, you never know what your fiancé may tell you you're going to do.
Good. Thank
You comfortable now?
you. Yep, thank you.
Okay. Professional service.
Yes, so we have Adam Stone here today, and he is with Stone Municipal Group, and we have engaged him last month. I believe there was some discussion about the county's Tiff District, and So he has been engaged to provide some examples, and I'll let Adam, if you want to come up and just kind of explain the work that you've been doing so far. Just give an update.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to come in and introduce myself. So first off, my name's Adam Stone. I'm an active CPA in the state of Indiana. I've been in local government finance for the last 10 years. And it's actually, it's our firm, so I'm the owner, and I was originally contacted by the mayor's office early March to help prepare a long-term impact report relative to the proposed county redevelopment commission. So over the month of March, a lot of conversations with Indiana legislators, as well as internal conversations with staff to try to assess the impact and long-term planning purposes for that report. A little bit more about us and what we do. We help on municipal financial advisory services, long-term planning, communications, and economic development. Before starting the firm last year, I worked for a large government finance software professional services firm, traveled the country, and worked with approximately about 1,000 different units of government. So we're based right here in Johnson County. We live in Greenwood, Indiana, and we're happy to and very grateful for the opportunity to help assist the City of Franklin and the City of Franklin Redevelopment Commission on this matter. Happy to take any questions that you may have. I trust you've all seen the statement of work.
I think the mayor had right behind you.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, Commission. I'll just tell you how we got to this point with Adam. We read the paper, myself and Mark Myers, Greenwood, and the town manager of Whiteland and Barbersville, read in the paper on Saturday morning. All of us, this is the first time we heard about it, and so we're all immediately, how are we going to combat this? Where are we at? So I called Jeff Peters, who we always use, and Jeff had informed me that it was a conflict of interest for us to use Jeff because he was working with the county. Talking with Mark Myers, I know the redevelopment commission had hired Adam to do their work, so we teamed up. He's working for Greenwood, he's working for us. Confidentiality on both sides. I don't know what Greenwood's look like. I don't know what ours look like. We've been to several meetings, had several conversations. So I know when we're done here, when Adam's done, he'll have a full report to give the redevelopment commission on what we're looking at and the effects that the county TIF could have. So as of now, I think that because of Adam, the help that he's provided, we've got that put on hold right now. But we do think at some point it may come back, and we're just about to the finish line with the study. So we're hoping to finish that in the next few weeks. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's how we got here.
Steve, can you give us an idea of the temperature of the county, of them moving forward with this? Have you been in discussions with anyone at the county concerning it?
I have, and now they're starting to split, where it was all unanimous to start with, and now they're kind of split. So it's still, I think whenever they see the facts of how much money it actually costs the county, not only the city, but it also costs the county, and Adam has those facts to show everyone. I think that they will change their mind and maybe do TIF in pocket areas, maybe where it makes sense. This doesn't make sense. So, any other questions?
Saturday after the article in the paper, I did call the mayor and was concerned about the effect of TIF for Franklin. And the newspaper article was a little vague, but I worried that all the work that Franklin's done through the Redevelopment Commission, a percentage of our future dollars were going to end up in the quarter of 69. And I felt that we needed to protect Franklin. And so I asked the mayor we needed to do something. And this was the beginning of that.
Yes.
Or the results of what the conversation started.
Yes, and also, on the very first original meeting, Rob, you were here, I think, and it was a pretty interesting meeting, and I actually asked Rob, what's our next move, Rob? What do you think we need to do? Rob says, I don't know, I think you need to move fast, and then the conversation with Richard, and this is the direction we went, so. And I feel comfortable about the direction that we went.
I know that Rob has some feelings and comments, you know. Rob, you want to share your thoughts?
Well, yes, I do. I don't really have let me just say it this way. So I can't find the statute that would allow us to spend our TIF money out for work to be done outside city limits.
Can I add to that just a second? When you see the report, it's really not about work outside of the city, all the city limits. It's also work that we've done to show the benefits of what we've done with our TIF. It has to do with that as well. A little bit of it might be outside the city limits, but the bigger part is inside.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the concern I've expressed, so however you guys want to roll it, it's fine.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, Mayor, you talk about how we pay Adam, is that specific to
Correct.
paying Adam?
Correct. And I think Krista and I also talked about this after we talked to Richard. Krista, you want the professional services agreement that we have with, or the fund we have for professional services?
Right, and that was just my assumption until Rob raised some concerns, is that we have, every year we approve a professional services resolution, and this fits well within that amount that's been approved. And it is just an hourly, it's not, there's not a lump sum, and you guys, I emailed that to all of you, so you have copies of that. So I think it's just a matter of moving forward, and we know we need to do this, so it's just figuring out the best way to legally make sure that Adam is compensated for all of his hard work, and I think this is a really important topic, so we'll figure it out on where, how to get it paid for, and whatever proper channels that is. So.
DJ, you have some thoughts?
Oh, vague thoughts is if Adam's work benefits all of the TIF districts, then I don't see why TIF money couldn't be used for it. If they had, Rob's the expert on that, not me.
So let me just say one more thing. So I'm not going to pound the table or anything, but I just if you think, as a mental exercise, why not pay for the study of the street department, because it's future city streets that we're talking about. Why not pay for another parks department, because it's future parks that we're talking about. These aren't yet city TIF districts. It's not even yet city annexed property. So that's. I've said probably more than enough, but I just want to make sure. I don't feel like I'd be doing my job if I just sat here silently. I wanted to raise that concern. It's just not clear to me that it should come out with TIF.
Any other questions?
I did make a phone call yesterday just to make sure that how Adam's getting paid in Greenwood, it is paid out of TIF, or out of their redevelopment commission. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going down a wrong path. That's correct, isn't it, Adam?
Yeah, the majority is paid from the East Side Allocation Fund, and I'm an accountant, so I'll stay in that lane, but my understanding is that Williams Barrett Wachowski, Mr. Stephen Watson, is their counsel, and their determination was that in the report and the analysis, it's impact to that TIF. So it was really looking at the current annex, current TIF boundaries, and the actual impact to those areas as far as what that would do to the lifetime of that area. I think that was their determination. But certainly understand there's different ways to look at that. But to answer your question, Trevor, there, that east side TIF that pays for that service.
If there's no other question, need to take action, and we'll entertain a motion either way, how you want to move forward.
I understand the issues, whether we pay it out of TIF funds on a basis that benefits our TIF districts and proposed TIF districts, or that we pay it out of the various parks, streets, etc. Are those the options?
It is, and those are not our decisions. Our decision is only to be paid out of our professional services in the RDC budget that we have.
Well, it would be professional services for us, would it not?
So if you don't mind, it wouldn't be paid out of the streets or the parks, it would be paid out of the Board of Works if we went that route. Adam he's gonna get paid, we can pay him out of the Board of Works. That just takes away from fixing alleys, streets, and sidewalks. So that's fine too.
Well, but we have a professional services component of our own internal budget.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
I move we pay it out of our budget.
Okay, we have a motion to pay Stone Group out of our professional fees, and we need a second.
Second.
And we have a second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll be in contact through Adam with, when that report is finalized, there'll be a presentation done for this commission, and then also obviously at the county level with his findings and that report. So just keep that in mind. There'll be some follow-up as far as that's concerned, so.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to new business, tax certification property value analysis presentation.
Okay, so this is a presentation that I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and apologize to several of you in the audience because you've suffered through this twice already, through the board, it's been through the Board of Works and also to the City Council. But I do think it's great information, and the Redevelopment Commission's role in this is really important as far as partnership with the Franklin Development Corporation. So these are properties that were brought through the county to the city through the Board of Works, cooperation of different entities. And so the very first one, we just wanted to give you an overview of the very first one, if everyone remembers this beautiful red carpet building out by the interchange that was in terrible need of repairs, but there were $258,000 in back taxes. This is back in 2012. And then there was also, it went through the unsafe building process. And so it costs a little over $88,000 to demolish this building out of the interchange. And so the total at tax sale for this property was $347,000. And at that time, you know, adjoining properties, that it really wasn't worth that much, and the different liens that were on that. So it was a partnership between the county commissioners and the Board of Works that they were able to give this tax deed to the city, who in turn passed it through to the Franklin Development Corporation. And so this helped make room for new economic development in this area, this interchange, as part of our I-65 interchange plan. So I just wanted to show you, it's a little bit hard to compare because the parcels have changed with the way the road was reconfigured and those kinds of things. But this is what it used to look like, and these are what the parcels in that area were valued at. anywhere from 2014 to 2019. And so you can see at the bottom a total of $3,691,000 in assessed value at this location. And then that's compared to 2021. So you can see the new roundabout and Granville Drive, and then the new subdivisions, the new parcels. So the combined assessed value now for this area is $15,246,000. So an increase in change in valuation of $11,555,000. Pretty significant. I don't know that any of that would have occurred without some kind of remedy to this red carpet property problem, which was right here. So even without, there's still 3 major lots that have not developed in this area. Even without those 3 major lots, it's still, over $15 million in assessed value. Also important to note, because those taxes were forgiven and those liens were forgiven, that $347,000, the combined taxes that are now paid on these parcels from just 2020 to 2021 is $580,000. And that's 1 year of taxes. So we have more than recouped those costs of those taxes that were forgiven in 1 year. And I think that's really important to note, because this area is not a TIF district. This is not an allocation area. That was part of the agreement with the county, is that would not be done through the redevelopment. And so all of those taxes are flowing through to the city, the county, the schools, the library, all of the taxing entities for Franklin and Johnson County. So I think that's a really great success story, and there was a lot of work and planning that went into making this happen. And it's just exciting to see those numbers turn out to be what they are. Going from there were several other small properties that didn't sell at tax sale. So for example, this one at 551 West Madison Street, this was acquired in 2017, and it was actually one of the first original log cabins in Franklin. And there's been a lot of research and history done on this. The interior has been completely restored as well, back to the log cabin beams exposed, and the owners have lovingly named this Ida after one of the previous owners that lived here, and they've done a lot of research and have a lot of really cool information on this actual property in Franklin in general. But you can see that they did pay the Franklin Development Corporation $10,500 for this property, which went towards their title and legal fees and those kinds of things. But the change in valuation here, it was $44,000, now it's $91,800. So a nice increase there, and they are current on their taxes, so this is generating tax revenue instead of a drain on resources. This next one is another great story at 420 West Jefferson Street. So it was acquired through the same tax certificate process in 2018. This was a partnership. You can't hardly even see it because of this giant tree, but it had been vacant for a number of years. And this was a partnership with the Franklin Community School Corporation. They used some of their students for demolition and training days and things like that. So it was a great partnership. But this was originally assessed as a single-family residence at $58,300. Its current valuation, assessed value, is $154,700. And I can tell you that it was purchased in 2020 for $209,000. And so this is a great success story here as well. It does remain a single family, and then you can see there the increase in assessed value. The next one is 348 Kentucky Street. It was acquired in 2017. It's still a little bit of a work in progress, but the exterior is mainly complete. This was a source of code enforcement complaints and all kinds of boarding up, and there was actually a giant hole in the roof. You can't really see it here, but there were 4, maybe 5 apartments in this building, and just a lot of complaints. There was no sewer connection. There were 20-some cats living here. It was just a real problem property in this neighborhood. So The change in valuation on this one is not as great. It went from 107,000 to 125, but the main reason for that is because it was assessed as a multifamily property, and now it has been converted back to a single-family property, so that tax rate is that much different, and the assessed value is that much different. But I think if you talk to any of the adjoining property owners in this area, they are extremely grateful to have this situations resolved in that neighborhood, and they have started making improvements to their homes as well, so this has definitely had a positive effect in this area as well. This next one is still kind of a work in progress, 544 West Jefferson Street. There were several apartments located. This has been divided up into, I think, 4 in the main house, and then there was like even an apartment in the garage. So you can see a lot of these little additions have been taken off, and the porch is being stabilized. A lot of the trees and things have been cut down, and just mainly it's just been cleaned out, and the demolition has occurred. So this was also purchased in 2018. Unfortunately, because it was reassessed from multifamily to single family, the value is actually decreased by $1,000, but I'm sure that as this property is restored, that assessed value will increase greatly, and you'll see a positive change here. This is a project for John Connor, who's a contractor, and so even in his proposal, he did indicate that this was kind of a fill-in project for him, and that it would take longer. They're basically working on this in between other projects, and so we do expect this to take a little bit longer than we would probably like, but if it weren't for him doing the work himself, I don't know that anyone ever would have taken on this project. It's a pretty big project with a lot of work that needed to be done. They've run into several issues here. The next one is 934 Johnson Avenue, and just to be clear, it is just a vacant lot. So this shows the adjoining property, which we gave preference in the process, the request for proposals process, to adjoining property owners if they wanted to take possession. A lot of them have been mowing these properties and things like that. So this does have a negative change in valuation just because it is now assessed as part of the adjoining home site, and it's now residential access acreage instead of a separate building lot. So this does have a negative assessed valuation, but we're not mowing it, we're not, it's added to the value of the adjoining property. So I still feel like that's a success. The same thing here on Cincinnati Street, a decrease in assessed value, but this is again gone from out-of-state ownership to the adjoining property owner now owns this property, is maintaining this property. And this is again reassessed from a home site to residential excess acreage. So that brings me to kind of the current projects for this year for the Franklin Development Corporation. This is 280 Circle Drive. It has a current assessed value of $71,200. There were actually, this house sits on 2 parcels, and then there's a third parcel where the driveway kind of used to be. So 2 of those 3 parcels went to tax sale, but the third one did not. So through a process, the FDC has been able to acquire the 1 parcel needed. We paid $2,500 for that parcel to the property owner, and then the other 2 parcels are going through the tax certificate process, and we should have the deed for those anytime, probably I would say no later than May. And then this will start the rehab. We're partnering with Franklin Heritage and other local contractors to do a complete renovation of this property. We hope to take this property and take the proceeds from it and invest them in this next property, which is 650 Hurricane Street. So this assessed value is $14,200. This rendering shows you just an initial concept. This isn't the final, this is just what's proposed. But this is another property. This did not go through the tax certificate process. We actually, through the FDC, worked with the property owner who did buy it outright, and we purchased this just a few weeks ago for $17,000. And we'll do a complete renovation, interior and exterior. Again, this will be single family through a partnership with Franklin Heritage and volunteers. We hope that we will be able to then take the proceeds from this property and invest it in another property and continue to do 1 or 2 of these each year through this process. And so there's a great need. One thing I want to make sure I mention is there's a great need for more affordable housing, just with the housing market the way that it is right now. There's no properties. I think there may be 1 property for sale in all of Johnson County under $150,000. So there's just great need for single-family homes that are more affordable, and so we're hoping to have a small impact on that and solve some issues in these neighborhoods, but also provide some decent affordable housing in the process. So that's all I have on that. I just wanted to give you an update. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
What's the completion date on these last 2 properties?
Just because the funding with the Franklin Development Corporation, these are both properties located outside of the Tiff District, and so we, through the FTC, are not able to use money from the Redevelopment Commission on either of these projects. So we have just under $100,000 in interest and has accrued that we can use those funds to do these rehabs. We'll have to do 1 at a time. We can't do them both at the same time just because of funding issues. And so the plan is to do the 280 Circle Drive first. And then once that's sold and hopefully we take that profit and recoup our investment, then we'll go to 650 Hurricane Street. Ideally, we would like to try to do them both this year. It is April, so I don't make any promises, but that's the goal, is to complete both of them and sell them both this year.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, I think, this started years ago to get FTC off their, on their own, so to speak, and having a little bit of, money coming in and for them to do these type of projects and, partnerships with Rob's group and, local contractors, a lot of people doing charity work, so to speak, on the free, volunteers, et cetera. And I think it's just been a highlight, of, what our city's been trying to accomplish for some time now. And the hard work of this group, Rob, your group, and everyone really just kind of partnering together and trying to, make our city a little bit more desirable, specifically in some of these harder hit neighborhoods. So, Krista, congratulations. I mean, this is a long time coming and just a success story. So I'm very proud of it.
Okay, under new business, the Avalon gas station request.
Joanna.
Oh, Joanna.
She's been working with them on this, so let you explain. Everybody's familiar with this location.
Good morning. So we have been in contact with the civil engineer and then also the architect that's been hired by the new owner of the Admiral gas station. This property is entirely within the 100-year floodplain, and therefore, in order to demolish the existing structure and build a new structure, the new structure has to meet flood protection requirements. In order to do that, they're going to do 2 things. One, the new structure is going to be a little bit higher from current grade in order to do that, but they're also going to use materials that meet the flood-proofing requirements. So as you can see here, they're looking at locating the building at the south portion of the property. Property is zoned at MXD, which is mixed-use downtown center. The setbacks on that are actually 0, so they can build up to the property lines. It's a pretty small site. They're not going to change the pumps or relocate that canopy at all. They will spruce it up, make it look a little bit better. But one of the things that we have been discussing with them is due to all the events downtown, the amphitheater being constructed south of here, that instead of just having one entrance from the parking lot, that it would be really desirable for our residents and visitors that there be a secondary entrance, as they're shown here, be on the east side. Kind of similar to what the Shell station is there at 31 and Jeff Street, where, people who are getting gas can go in off the Morton Street side, but people that are just going and getting coffee or drinks, they're parking on the west side of that building. So that would even lend itself to this in the morning traffic of people using the city's parking lot to go in and get their coffee and not intermixing with people that are getting fuel. But due to the elevations and requirement for flood protection, there is a need that originally they were designing steps coming out of the east side of that building and then potentially going into the parking lot, taking out one parking space. In our meeting with them and the mayor, we were discussing, it might be a little bit better not to take out a parking space, and then we came up with this as a proposal where they could do a ramp, which would actually make it more accessible for more individuals. However, it is encroaching on the RDC's property, so in order to do that, they knew that they needed to come before the RDC and get a blessing that you would even entertain the idea of letting them build this improvement of the ramp on RDC property.
Joanne, I have a question. The ramp I know it'll be handicapped incline, but will it be wide enough where you can have wheelchairs and walkers and all that?
Yes, it would meet all ADA requirements on width and slope. The reason that it would have to angle like that is because of the slope. So there would actually kind of be a landing area before you would turn north to go into the building.
Will they do anything to the tanks that are already buried? Any questions?
No, I just comment, I think that's an amazing improvement. That place could be a gold mine for the owners, I feel. Yeah, and that facade that they have there, I was hoping that somebody's gonna do something. I talked to them about it, and they said that they were gonna turn it to a Shell station from what they had mentioned. So that'll be a nice new facade out front, canopy. So, yeah, I mean, it really needs to be improved.
And the materials they even brought and showed us at that meeting for the actual construction of the building is brick and stone that would not be identical to downtown, but would be compatible. It's definitely a big improvement. But we know, someone else's improvements on the RDC's property need to go through a grant and easement for that ramp and working through any insurance liability. But we didn't want them to go down the path of starting to do all the design without getting the blessing of the RDC that this is something that you would consider granting approval for them to.
Joanne, what are you looking for?
Basically a nod of the head of letting them proceed so that way they can come forward with an actual design and know what the impact is, and then to address any concerns that legal counsel has.
Joanne, are they asking for an easement to put the ramp on, or they want a deed, small purchase of either?
We were just discussing an easement. It would be more complicated to do a transfer of property.
I'd like to at least look at it. So if someone gets hurt on the ramp and we own part of the ramp, we'll get sued too. I'd just soon not get sued and not go for it.
And that's why we wanted to discuss liability also and potential indemnification requirements.
So if you could look into with Rod if there's a way to transfer title 10 by 3 or however many feet it is, so that we don't own the ramp. I don't know how other people feel, but that's how I feel about it.
Rob? Liability?
Well, at some point, some drunk kid's gonna run a skateboard down that and flip over that rail.
Yeah.
And the gas station's gonna get sued, we're gonna get sued for having an attractive nuisance there that attracts drunken skateboarders. So we're gonna have to have some liability agreements with them, and we'll have to put it all together on paper. So I think today we're just getting a sense of the redevelopment commission that they want to proceed and talk to them about it.
Just kind of getting the temperature.
And then they'll start doing their work and come back to us with a formal easement proposal, I would guess, with insurance language. Now, I think maybe we ought to spend just a second talking about what BJ's talking about. BJ's talking about doing something different. Instead of us continuing to own that ramp for the lower half of that ramp, we would actually deed that little section of ground to the gas station. So we would no longer own it. They would start paying taxes on it, I suppose, and they would have all full liability, and we wouldn't be responsible for anything that happens on the ramp. That would be more than I think what they're currently requesting, but that would be another option.
And I think we'll look into it.
Or let them know that we would might consider that, because maybe that makes sense for them somehow.
That makes sense to me from the liability for the future. Not that you're anticipating anything happening, but
It
there's
will.
a possibility. And Paul, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm good with moving forward that way.
Move forward. Ken, Kristen? I think the thought is that we're moving favorably to do this, and we want to protect the liability and maybe even deed or quick deed the property, that little rent property.
I will pass the message along and we'll be back with further details.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it's a great improvement for Franklin.
It will be.
Other business, Krista, the financials?
Yeah, you have your financial reports, the March financial report. Just show you the cash balance and then our receipts through the end of the year, along with expenditures. I did add at the bottom, I did add the resolutions that were approved at the last month's meeting, so you'll see the economic development agreement with G&H, Jim Black Road Phase 1, and then the Arvin Commerce Parkway right-of-way, and then also the Shell building account. So that was money that was left in the Shell building account that wasn't spent. So that's actually a credit. So that just brings you to, if all of those are spent through the end of the year, our ending estimated cash balance 1.8 at the end of the year. So that's for our regular TIF control fund. I don't know if anybody noticed the clerk treasurer's office and the state board of accounts have changed some of the account numbers, and so I don't know if anybody picked up on that, but those are updated on here for you as well. That's not an error, those have been changed. And then that brings me to the US 31 TIF district. Not really much to report here. Nothing's really changed. Those are still just the estimated tax receipts for the year, and then we still have these placeholders for the playground and the splash pad and the pickleball courts here at the bottom. But it's still right around $1.5 million, and as we get firmer numbers on those will get updated as well. So the last one is the bond for the US 31 and the amphitheater projects. So these are just updated here as actual costs come in and invoices are paid. These same placeholders are here for the playground and the splash pad. And then again, this is a negative bond balance because we have to spend this completely down. We want to spend all of these funds and then take that balance back over to the regular US 31 district. So
What's the last date?
it's 3 years, so it would be 20, I think it's either the end of this year or next, I have to check, but
I remember the 3 years.
yeah, I think it's the end of.
Looks like we're in good shape though.
But yeah, we're doing fine, so. Any questions on those?
Okay, cash flow?
So same thing with the cash flow. Now that I have the March numbers, I was able to actually go through and put the actual numbers in here for the first quarter of March. And so those are all actual numbers of what was spent on each resolution. And then I moved the resolutions up from the bottom to show you what was approved versus what was under consideration. One thing I did want to note, I don't think Mark's here, but one of your resolutions was for $75,000 for the resurfacing and restriping of the Orrin Wright parking lot of the farmer's market lot. Those bids actually came in, and that came in at $36,485, so significant savings there. So I did update that amount from $75,000 to that $36,000 amount. And then just updating the first quarter totals, and then the resolution 2104 for the shell building loan payments. We won't have those this year because we will hopefully be closed on that soon. I was hoping today, but just 2 more weeks. So that was an additional $218,000 that we have planned to spend on the shell building this year that we won't have to pay. So that has a positive effect on your cash flow as well, so you'll see that there. One thing to note is I do expect us to get some cash back from the closing of the shell building, and just to be ultra conservative, that has not, I don't have the exact dollar amount, that is not listed on your cash flow. So as soon as we have those numbers and that closing takes place, so at your May meeting, those numbers will be plugged into here as well, so looking forward to that. But still, everything's in the positive on the blue line, which is what we want to see. So.
Any questions? Orrin Wright parking lot use.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update. Seeing as the Redevelopment Commission still does own the Orrin Wright parking lot and is maintaining it, we did have a couple of requests. One is this Saturday for the Spring Vintage Fest from the actual festivals from 10 to 5, and then starting with the farmer's market on May 29th to September 25th, the use of that property every Saturday. Those requests have also been through the Board of Works for other things, but I just wanted to just kind of pass that along to you as the official property owners as well. So, is there any concerns or questions about
In
those?
addition to the Spring Vintage Festival, the Franklin Tree Advisory Board is planning an Arbor Day celebration and recognizing Jim Crane. It's from 10 a.m. to noon at the Urban Forest. There's some activities, a scavenger hunt, tree identification, and some seedlings will be passed out. And the mayor and Representing Franklin and Steve Brown representing the Rotary will be giving a short speech.
Richard, what's that day again?
It's the 24th, Saturday the 24th. It's our Franklin celebration, and just for everyone, Franklin is still participating as a Tree City USA member. Any comments?
Could I jump back to Krista? When we have the parking lot used, what insurance do we require of those who are using it?
I mean, it's the same insurance that the city requires for any kind of festival or.
Okay, so even the single use is insured too?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Marty,
Yes, sir.
you ready for the,
Getting there. Got a bunch of people, we gotta get them parked. We're trying to get them situated.
okay, anything?
It's been a very, very busy month. Projects have just picked right back up. Sorry.
Great.
You look like you had a question. We also received a grant from Duke Energy to do a virtual familiarization tour for site selectors. So we'll be filming some video and having some speakers come in and doing a virtual tour for site selectors to see our assets and available properties and things like that in Johnson County.
David?
Staying busy as ever. We've going through, we've had several new abatements come through, so we're definitely seeing some really positive growth in the city.
Rob?
The art craft will officially reopen for business this weekend, the 24th, 25th. So I can't tell you how great that is. After we were one of the first businesses to close, one of the last to reopen. So it's been a very interesting year. I want to write a theme that says what I did during my first pandemic. So look forward to that later on.
And this is off the subject, but one of the ladies in out by where I live asked, is there any future thought for handicap accessibility to the restroom at the art craft?
There already is a handicap restroom on the first floor.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's where the old manager's office used to be, so there's one there. In the future, if folks would like to donate large chunks of money, we would put in another large bathroom on the second floor.
Okay. What, can't think of your name.
Leah.
I'm from the Daily Journal. I don't know how you think of that.
If you want to comment.
I'm seen but not heard.
Rosie?
Franklin Chamber is kind of back in business. We're having in-person meetings now. Our next one is May 13th. We're going to be talking about some organizations that have a global reach, that are located in Johnson County that have a global reach. So we'd love to have you, anybody, you're welcome to come to any of our meetings.
Yeah, I understand you're getting back to the after hours or the get-together.
We have an after-hours scheduled in August at the Community Foundation. We're hesitating on the after-hours, but everything else is moving ahead. Our golf outing, our business expo in the fall, we're getting back in business.
Kristen? Anything? Okay. RDC meeting is adjourned.